all the way down the back. And when you're working on the back, you never kind of put pressure directly on the spine. Yeah, so you're starting here with your fingers just to one side of the spine, not on it. That's really important. You can damage the spine by putting too much pressure on it. Yeah. So it can be quite nice. These muscles are quite tight here with Yana as well. Quite crunchy up here, so nice to just work them a bit. And coming back to the effleurage again, bringing the person back to relaxation. When you've done a little bit of deep work, it's quite nice to come back to the effleurage. As you can see, I'm doing the effleurage in a slightly different way here. This is called four-way stretch, actually. And if you want to practice this yourselves, if you kind of start off with a hand, one hand on the glutes, one hand on the shoulders. Decide which is your leading hand. So in this case, my right's my leading hand. I'm going to move this to the opposite shoulder. I move this hand to the opposite buttock. Right hand moves to this hip. Left hand follows to the position that it was in. So we're going to move. It's a little bit of getting used to, but it's rather a nice sensation. It's like kind of being massaged by lots and lots of different hands. Massage is percussion, and these are the more kind of stimulating waking up strokes. And the first one that I want to show you is hacking. And hacking is kind of striking with the side of the hand and the finger on the flesh, and it's really for the kind of more fleshy areas. You'd never use this over kind of bony areas, or people who are particularly frail in any way. Really. And it's a bounce. It's really important actually that you practice this first of all. You can on a cushion or on the side of the couch itself. I'll just come around here and show you. So you want to get this nice relaxed feel. There's a kind of bounce to it. What you're not doing is going with very stiff, tight hands, because if you do that you'll really damage the person you're working on. Yeah, it's actually very relaxed. Hands are nice and relaxed. And you might find that as you start off, many people find they've got kind of one hand more dominant than the other, and it's quite difficult to kind of get that nice and even. And what can help, if that's the case, is to really concentrate on your weak hand. So think about what the weak hand's doing and let the other one do what it needs to do. Yeah, so we're just going to kind of hack a little bit up the side, quite light because Jana's quite sort of small, but on kind of bigger men you might want to kind of go a bit harder. And on the other side. And with all these strokes we're kind of covering all the area. Hacking, and I'm going to show you cupping. Cupping is another percussion stroke, and it's done. You have to form your hands into like little cup shapes, and it's another again it's a bounce. You're not going to come down too heavy. You want your arms and your hands nice and relaxed, but what you should get is this nice kind of sound from the cupping. This sort of echoing sound. So it sounds a bit like horses' hooves. Again, I'm avoiding the spine, although that's actually a softer kind of percussion movement than the hacking. What I finally want to show you is something that actually, so some of these strokes you'll find that they're kind of given different names, different places and by different courses and traditions, so don't worry too much about that. This one in the Kavala course call this tapping. You might also find it called beating or pummeling elsewhere. But it's a kind of stroke using the knuckles. You're going to use the knuckles of the hands just to kind of brush lightly. And again, yarn is quite slight, so I'm being careful. It's this kind of a more vigorous stroke that. So it's a useful one again to use on sort of big blokes. Be a bit cautious about using it on smaller women. And the percussion strokes all aim to kind of stimulate the circulation and the nervous system and wake the person up a bit. It may not always be appropriate in every massage. Sometimes you might want to leave the percussion out. And to finish, it's nice to kind of come back to the effleurage again. And hopefully you will feel a difference after all your ministrations and the person has relaxed more. And you can just finish with some sort of feather stroking, very light touch, really relaxing down the back. So this is just the tips of the fingers, literally feather stroking we call this, and down the spine is quite nice. Be careful about kind of taking the towel back, pull the person's underwear back up and cover them with the towel again. And you may want just to kind of just tune in again at the end, just put the hands back in that position. Just take a couple of breaths in that place. Okay, so now we're going to massage the back of the legs. And here you'll want to do your little bit of towel management. So we're going to kind of fold one towel back first. Just need to separate the legs just a little bit. And again, I find it quite useful just to tuck the towel in there under the underwear. And bringing the towel down the inside of the leg, always kind of to protect your client's modesty. Get the oil on your hands, nice and warm. As much, sometimes you can't always tell, but sort of as much as you feel you're going to need. And we're going to start off again with the effleurage, of course, or the light stroking. So just covering that whole area with the oil. And here you'll kind of need to move with your whole body as you do this movement. Yeah, don't get too static, otherwise you'll kind of end up falling flat on your face at this point. Yeah, it's much easier if you bend your knees, move with that stroke, whole length of the leg, and all the way up and around the hip bone. You can't always kind of do this, of course, because of clients' underwear. It depends what kind of underwear they're wearing, but it is quite nice to kind of use this heel of the hand round the hip bone here. Again, this is an area where people hold a lot of tension, get very tight hips, and it's quite nice, just helps free that up. Get the oil on your hands, nice and warm. Sometimes you can't always tell, but sort of as much as you feel you're going to need. And we're going to start off again with the effleurage, of course, or the light stroking. So just covering that whole area with the oil. And here you'll kind of need to move